It's time to start putting the cockpit floor in. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out how to make the framing for the cockpit floor. The boat floors that are attached to the steam bent frames, those aren't necessarily the floors for the floor. Except back here at stations 17 and 18, just in front of the aft bulkhead, so in between the centerboard trunk and the aft bulkhead. The plan shows that the cedar decking, or the floor for the cockpit, lay right on top of those two. And you can see I've got some boards in here that are on there that I'm using to try to extend forward to give me an idea where that planking or decking should lie. And so this board, this little piece of cedar that's clamped onto the centerboard trunk, the bottom of it, the bottom edge of it, should represent the bottom of the planking, or the bottom of the decking. And then this little piece of oak, it's about 3/4 by 13/16 that I've started putting in underneath there, is 1.25 inches below that. And the reason for that is because the framing members that come over off to the sides mount on top of that runner. So like, I'll see this little piece of oak here. Imagine this is the floor frame. It goes in here, lays on top of that, and then comes back until it lays on the rib. And then you build the floor on top of that. And this is supposed to be 1.25 inches is how big the oak floor framing members are supposed to be that lay on top of this runner. One of the other things I'm trying to figure out is, okay, now how does that extend forward, and where does this made up on the forward bulkhead? Because we're going to put a couple of little pieces of oak down on the bulkhead for the floors to lay on forward, higher than where the mast step is. That was one of the last things we've been working on. That's primed, but doesn't have its final coat of paint on. But you can see I finally got that hole drilled for the mast to step in, and that's in there. So we're going to go take some pictures of the plans and talk about that for a minute. Okay, I keep some of the plans on the wall over here, and we refer to these often. Now, on this particular page shows like a lot of the mast and boom and hardware and what have you. But down here, this shows what we're supposed to look like at frame 7. So frame 7 is the forward bulkhead station. And I've measured this here. We know that 1/8 of an inch equals 1 inch in reality. So this is 3/8 from the top of the floor, the original floor that's attached to the ribs, up to the bottom of the cedar decking, the floor. That's 3/8 of an inch, so 3 inches in reality. So what I did is I cut out a little piece of wood that's exactly 3 inches, and I set it on top of that forward floor. And I'm thinking that the decking should lay right about there. Now, this board extends back, and the decking is supposed to lay flat against the floors at 17 and 18. But if you look carefully, you're going to see there's a little gap in there. I've had some feeling that this frame, or the floor back here at 18, maybe just not quite as big as it's supposed to be, although I thought I was very careful when I cut these floors out. You only have to be off 1/8 of an inch to be off, 10 times that over a, say, 7-foot stretch. So it wouldn't take much for it to be off. Okay, I'm going to look at the other plan. So we gained some other knowledge on this next page. First of all, I can look down here. This is a side view of the entire boat. We're still on this. Now this is a 1.5 inch equals 1 foot. Well, that's still 1/8 equals an inch. Here's these frames, stations 17 and 18. There's the aft bulkhead. And you see that that cedar decking is supposed to lay directly on top of those two floors. Now what I notice is it comes forward along the centerboard trunk. And they don't show this runner that I'm putting in underneath here to hold up these pieces, the 1.25 inch pieces that are going to come sideways out to the ribs. But what I notice is that it appears that this decking is almost exactly parallel to the top of the centerboard trunk. And I measured that, and it appears to be very close. The other thing you can see here is then it goes forward, and then it's up here, and it looks to be about 2 inches or so above the mast step, right there. Now they don't show a cleat on the forward bulkhead, but I'm pretty sure there's supposed to be one there to hold the floor up. So these are all the kinds of clues that you get when you're doing this. Let's see, up here's frame 12, and at frame 12 it tells us that these deck beams, see how they match up or land on the steam bent frame. It says this is 3/4 inch by 1 1/4 oak, and now you can see this runner that's mounted on the centerboard trunk right here. Now at frame 12 we could measure this distance and find out how far this is. Let's do that. Okay, so what have we learned? Interestingly enough, here at frame 12, this distance between the top of the boat floor and the bottom of the cedar decking is 3 inches. Isn't that interesting? I took my little 3-inch block that I had on the forward bulkhead up there, and I put it back here on frame 12, and one of the bolts is in the way behind there, so I can't get it right up next to there. I'm about 1/4 inch more than that. I'm about 3 1/4 inches there, the way I've got that clamped on there at the moment. But I don't know if I'm going to adjust it, because back here this board is just barely off of frame 18. At a point I think you have to just decide it's good, it's close. The other thing I did is I measured this distance on the centerboard trunk from the bottom of the decking up to the top of the centerboard trunk. And I measured it here, and I measured it here. And in both cases, it's 6/8 of an inch. 3/4 or 6/8. 6/8 equals a total of 6 inches. So I know that as long as I am pretty much perpendicular with the top of the trunk here, it should be pretty close. All right. We'll put some boards in there and start seeing if we can get it to all line up. Okay, so I've done one more thing here, and that is I've got these little blocks that are 1 1/4 inches. See it sitting in there in between the bottom runner and my measuring stick. And I did that because I know that floor timber framing member has got to be 1 1/4 inches tall, and so I cut out another one, and it's 1 1/4 inches, just exactly identical to the other one. And so I put that one in there so that I know that I'm level up on top of that runner, and in part because I didn't have a straight piece of wood that was just about 7 foot or so that I could rest all the way back on that back floor at 18 and be long enough to make it all the way up to the bulkhead. So basically I just moved it up there based on the idea that runners right, and it's 1 1/4 inch up above it. Now I know I can take that 1 1/4 inch little block, put it underneath that, because again, that's still going to represent the bottom of the floor framing, or the decking, that perpendicular board in there. Mark 1 1/4 inch down below that, and then I know that's where it needs to be the bottom of the cleat that I mount on the bulkhead. And I think that's going to do it. Now we should be able to do that, get a runner on each side, and then start building the floor framing out away from that back into the ribs. And now I'm satisfied that I am not only close enough, but I am really good. You'll remember that we figured it was about a 3-inch distance from that floor at the forward bulkhead up to the bottom of the decking. So after I got through with that last little video segment, I took that piece of 3-inch oak that I got and put it on there, and it fits exactly underneath there, from the floor up to the bottom of where the decking should be, 3 inches. Validated everything that I thought I knew. It's also going to tell me that I'm just a hair off back here. I'm going to have to build up this back floor just a hair. Won't take much. Maybe a 1/16 of an inch. That was about all the gap that we had there. All right, more later. This is the first of at least 2 parts for the cockpit sole framing. Once we get some of those pieces that come out sideways and rest on the ribs, then we'll do some more video. Thanks for watching.